It is 4 p.m. We're bringing developing news.
And the stories behind the headlines. This is Storycon. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Ed Lingao. Some stories are watching this Tuesday, July 1. Former Senator Francis Tolentino stands firm amid China's sanctions, calling it a badge of honor for defending the West Philippine Sea. This came after China accused him of, and we quote, egregious conduct on China-related issues and banned him from entering the mainland, or the Chinese mainland, Hong Kong and Macau. Tolentino, whose term ended just yesterday, says it is a consequence of standing up for the country's sovereignty and vows no foreign power can silence him. For its part, the DFA acknowledges China's right to impose sanctions, but says it is not conducive to rebuilding trust or improving bilateral ties.
Former President Rodrigo Duterte has rejected plans to sell his house in Doña Luisa Village, Davao City, saying that it holds deep sentimental value. That is according to his son, Davao City Representative Pulong Duterte. He said the property, or rather, Digong said the property was the first house. Or rather, Pulong said the property was the first house his father bought with his own money, and that the former president has no intention of letting it go even whilst detained at the ICC. Pulong also clarified that the house is separate from the property of Hanilet Avancenia, dismissing rumors of any family rift. Several business groups have warned of strained operations and inflationary pressure following the approval of a 50 peso daily wage hike in Metro Manila. ECOP President Sergio Ortiz Luis says micro-businesses may struggle to comply, while the Philippine Chamber of Commerce says the costs may be passed on to consumers. An Ateneo economist warns that it could stoke inflation if productivity does not improve. And labor groups say the hike is a relief, though still not enough.
Malacanang says President Bongbong Marcos will study the proposal to build an ammunition plant in Subic once details are formally presented. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro says there is no formal offer yet, and the president will decide based on what is best for the country. Defense Secretary Gilbert Chidoro earlier said he is open to the idea following a U.S. House committee report pushing for the study of such a facility in the Philippines.
I have yet to see a formal proposal, but naturally we will consider it, and any production entity which will be of benefit to the Philippines, and not only in terms of our resilience, but improving, giving employment and other technological transfers is definitely encouraged.
And Thailand's Constitutional Court has suspended Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra over a leaked phone call with a Cambodian leader. Judges unanimously agreed to hear an ethics case against her and voted 7-2 to suspend her while the case is under review. The call, made amid tensions over a May 8 border clash that left a Cambodian soldier dead, triggered public outrage and protests. Shinawatra says she will cooperate with the court, insisting her actions were aimed at preventing conflict and preserving peace.
And joining us today, Storycon's resident political, what does he call it again?
Wala na.
Ever.
Political whatever.
Heckler whatever.
Fill in the gaps.
Na hindi pa rin banned sa China, si Tito Ronald Llamas.
Thailand is also suspending its prime minister. It's also political turmoil in Thailand. Ano ba yan? And from the Philippines, and we need to...
The youngest.
Yes. Whilst over here, we're looking... Well, the lower house impeached the vice president, which leads me to ask if women leaders are being held to a much higher standard here. But anyway, the only person who can answer that is the Philippine Star Editor-in-Chief, Ami Pamintuan. Hi, Ami.
Hi, happy Tuesday.
Oh, Ronald.
Sedate ako ngayon, sedate.
Sedated?
Parang sedated itong kasama namin eh. Tahimik eh.
Very subdued. Very subdued.
Si Ronald sedated, ako sedate.
Very subdued. Kumpara doon sa kahapon na humihiyaw.
Subdued ka na naman? Ano na naman nangyari?
Hindi, yung damit ni subdued. Kumpara kahapon sumisigaw, di ba?
Para hindi ka masilaw.
Bumabawi.
Ganun ba yun? Ikaw, subdued ka din.
Kaping lagi.
What's your...
Hindi mo napapansin.
Lately, no? Because? Because?
The weather.
Makulimlim kasi ganun.
Buti nga maaraw today. I was worried na mauulan na naman.
Hindi dahil sa political landscape, no?
It's just raining. It's just always raining in your world.
Okay. Nagkatao doon sa headlines natin kasi si Tolentino talagang talagang binan ng China. Foreign Ministry nag-announce pa eh. Bakit ikaw di ka nababan?
Baka you will
Good boy
know
ako,
kapag nag-apply kayo ng visa. Kasi we had word also from the embassy, no, na meron din sila mga kinaiinisan yatang certain personalities pa dito sa Pilipinas.
Talaga?
At ang sabi, hindi namin yan papapasukin. Yung may mga ganon ano.
But
So you will know if you apply for visa.
well, not really, because you're still able to. And I want to emphasize how drastic a move this is for China
Yes.
to sanction a legislator, a sitting foreign legislator of a country, an individual at that. Kasi usually it's broader economic sanctions on a country, but for them to target an individual foreign legislator, and I think I'm gonna say that I don't think it's much to do with the West Philippine Sea or South China Sea and his role in it. I suspect it has to do with the fact that he called a hearing on the alleged trolls na to this day has not been proven, by the way. Remember when he initiated a series of hearings in the 19th Congress just before the midterm elections and accused the Chinese embassy here of hiring troll farms, saying that it hired a marketing firm called Infinitus to seed its messages and to interfere in the local elections, which to this day he has not
Unresolved pa yun,
correct, which to this day he has not shown concrete proof of. And I suspect that's more to do, itong sanctions has more to do with that than the fact that he is the chair of the Maritime Committee of the Senate.
Sana banatan niya
Pero
yung kanyang
hindi ba proof na nga yung dokumentong pinakita niya?
Hindi, it was just a check, remember? And a supposed contract which the resource person of the marketing firm says was manipulated. Hindi napakita ultimately ni Senator Tolentino yung original contract. And then also yung check na yon was supposedly for a legitimate event that the Chinese embassy hired the firm for. Hindi basically na-connect yung check na yon sa alleged troll farm activity. And even the NBI, when we interviewed the NBI, said they found nothing, no troll farm activity that Infinitus engaged in. So yun na nga. So after that series of hearings, we came up with nothing. And I suspect that was what the Chinese foreign ministry in the embassy is angry about.
Okay naman yung ginawa niya. Pero sana ginawa niya earlier. Nung naging senador siya ng 2019. Nung siya ay presidente ng PDP Laban at yung kanyang presidente ay very pro-China. Para may consistency.
Saan kuweba ka ba galing?
Para may consistency.
Saan kuweba?
Parang nagbumalat lang siya nung popular na yung pagiging anti-China. Nung very popular na yung issue ng West Philippine Sea. Pero nung height ng pro-China ng Duterte government at siya yung presidente ng PDP Laban, maliban sa dati siyang cabinet secretary ni Tigong, hindi siya bumanat.
Hindi consistent is what you're saying.
Yes,
Kasi dati
yes.
dati tahimik siya.
Kaya
when
hindi nakatulong.
oo.
Hindi nakatulong sa kanyang election bid. Na sana, nakatulong sana kung may consistency.
During the Duterte years, he was quiet
Hindi lang.
about everything.
Parang nitong past 1 or 2 years lang siya nagingay.
But do you think that issue
And
would
then,
have helped in his campaign? Kasi parang people don't really have that kind of a long memory when it comes to issues you fight for. Kasi that's why people get elected.
Well, ang problema
on the
kasi,
basis of the last few months before
ang
elections.
problema kasi, hindi niya na-weaponize yung issue na yun, ng West Philippine Sea. Hindi niya nagamit for the campaign. Dahil nga, ay hindi siya naging talagang champion noon. Kung merong senador na gumamit noon, dahil more than 90% ang pro-West Philippine Sea, that could have affected yung kanyang kwan. Dahil
I get your point.
mas mataas pa yung boto sa kanya ni Heidi Mendoza. Kung maalala mo.
I get your point. Hindi nga consistent in terms of, okay, what do you really stand for here? And remember, the criticism about the hearings was that he was just using it for political mileage. Kasi nga at that point in time, he was lagging in the polls. Mababa siya sa polling. And he needed to, ang sabi ng mga critics was that he just needed to create some noise.
At saka nakailang tumbling kasi siya. Galing siya sa Pinoy government. Tapos nag-Duterte siya. From Duterte ay nag-Marcos siya. Tapos ngayon ay nasa Duterte uli. So, yung ganong klase bang consistency, hindi lang doon sa usapin ng West Philippine Sea.
Correct.
Cost him the election.
Yeah. And this is why...
But it's not unusual for China to ban people, ha? Remember si Albert Del Rosario, binan din nila from entering Hong Kong, at maraming mga media people na hindi nakakapasok dahil sa mga
pero
not from from all over different countries.
Pero
So,
nag-file,
nagbaban sila.
at yung issue na yun, nag-file kasi si former Secretary Del Rosario
Correct.
at si Justice Carpio.
Yes, after that,
nung,
yun, klaro naman.
after that, naban sila.
Bagong kaso sa, hindi yata ICC, ICJ. No?
International
Yes,
Court of
that's
Justice.
against Xi Jinping.
ICJ.
For environmental
damage,
violations.
yeah.
Destruction. Na a year ago, pinag-aaralan ng pinag-aaralan ng DOJ tsaka ng Solicitor General na i-file,
Baka i-revive.
sa yung kaso na yun sa UNCLOS. UNCLOS uli.
Yes.
Pero, ang sabi kasi ng mga expert, kailangan ng mas intensive na scientific study. Environmental yun . Hindi yun yung katulad ng final natin na 9-dash line o 10-dash line. Kaya...
Di ba pwede, Ronald, na dahil, tatanungin ka na namin dahil kasama ko dun sa pag-file Doon sa yung una.
Sa UNCLOS.
Hindi pa pwede kasama na dun yung yung you're creating artificial islands from coral reefs Di pa ba sapat yun na obviously you have to destroy the coral reef to create an island. Di pa ba sapat yun kung sakasakali for an environmental case?
Pwede, pero ayun nga, kailangan mo ng counting rigor. Gaano karami yung na-destroy? Halimbawa, di ba? Anong bahagi yung nawasak? No? Pwede kasing sabihin ng China.
Natin sa mischief reef.
Pero bakit yung reef, pinatungan mo ng ng runway?
Hindi, actually hindi siya reef Siya siyang bato na ginawa mo. Isang bato lang siya No? Talagang nagtayo ka ng isang, parang nireclaim mo.
Kaya nga.
Nagtayo ka ng
Pinatuon mo yung buong mischief reef ng isang buong isla.
Yes, kailangan mo lang ng scientific basis na hindi lang ito kinuha sa China tapos tinambak doon. Di ba? Ganun sasabihin Kinuha mo yan doon sa ilalim. Or sa Zambales. Or sa Cavite.
Zambales daw.
Galing daw sa Pangasinan.
Or sa Pangasinan. Ang problema, sa ngayon, nasa level ng Marites yan. Kailangan pakita mo talaga na ito yung destruction. Yung kanilang
the fact that you covered the entire reef with an island, isn't that
Di ba pwede before and
isn't
after?
that quite simply, obviously, destruction of the reef?
Ako, wala akong
Tinakpan mo pinatungan mo ng isla.
Ako, walang problema dyan, pero hindi ako yung pwede magsampa ng kaso Yung gobyerno ang kailangan magsampa ng kaso. At this point,
Sumama ka dati.
Kasi that seems to be the most obvious the effect of building the artificial islands.
Halimbawa, naglabas ng bill si Senator Risa Ontiveros na $10 billion yung dapat bayaran. Kailangan patunayan mo na $10 billion yung nawasak. Di ba? Yung ganong klase.
Correct. Of course, it has to be on solid legal grounds, right? Kailangan may mga scientific studies on, which by the way is what the BFAR was doing. Diba? Kaya sila
mas madali
expedition.
Mas madali kasi yung una Dahil kinlaim ng China yung halos buong South China Sea. Doon sa kanilang 9-dash line na ngayon ay 10 na. So, mas madaling patunayan. Ang ginamit namin noon, mga old maps mismo ng China. To show na kahit nung ancient times, ay hindi China ang may-ari ng South China Sea. So, mas madali. Ito, parang hihingi sila ng scientific basis.
Oo. Which, and coming back to Ami's point about China sanctioning a lot of individuals, the difference this time is foreign legislator sitting, well, I know his term has ended, but at the time when they were considering it, he was still a sitting senator. So it's pretty rare for them to sanction individual senators. Ang last lang na ginawa nila, if I recall correctly, was when the US was Nancy Pelosi when she visited Taiwan. So for China, there's clear red lines, right? So if you advocate for Taiwan, if you talk about Xinjiang, if you talk about Tibet, if you talk about Hong Kong, if you touch on sovereignty issues for Hong Kong, right? So clear red lines. So this time, ang curious thing about this is that it's not, they didn't raise any issues the whole time that Senator Tolentino was talking about the Maritime Zones Act, for instance.
Yes.
So, hindi naman sila nag-issue ng statement, hindi naman sila nagreklamo. It was only
Yung
now.
sa troll, nagreklamo yata sila, di ba?
Correct. That's why I'm saying
Yung
na...
sa troll.
Oo, correct.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying na mukhang ang issue is hindi yung stance niya sa West Philippine Sea, but more the fact that he was accusing the Chinese embassy here of hiring troll farms, and he conducted a series of hearings around it in the lead up to the midterms na ultimately hindi naman niya na-prove. There was no proof whatsoever that they were troll farming in the end. And actually, until now, we're still waiting for the committee report from those hearings, no? Wala pa rin hanggang ngayon. Hindi rin niya na-prove. And he was quite antagonistic towards the Chinese embassy during those hearings. Ina-accuse talaga niya of interference in the elections.
Actually, natataka ako, ba't di pa ako banned eh?
Wala ka naman. You're
China.
just criticizing. Wala ka
Nasa
naman.
UNCLOS kasi ako.
Oo.
Tapos nung 2016, nung nanalo tayo sa UNCLOS, I was the only Filipino who spoke at the Party Congress ng Communist Party of China. At nung 2022, I was the only Filipino to speak at their Party Congress at saka 100th anniversary ng Communist Party of China. So hindi pa ako ganun kasama sa kanila.
No, but I don't... Criticism is okay, I think. Kasi marami naman mga vocal na the ones who are criticizing West Philippines. I think it's really when, with the case of former Sec Albert Del Rosario, it's because he filed the case. He went ahead and, actioned it. Right? And with the Senator Tolentino, ay nagpatawag siya ng hearing.
Diba?
Right?
Bait-bait ko naman eh.
Very
Sabi mo
public.
nga, kaibigan mo si yung ambassador dati? Paano?
Si Ambassador Zhao,
oo.
hindi, kahit si Ambassador Wang.
Chao Jan
Liu
Wang.
Jian
I met
Si
Wang
Liu Jian
Yi,
Chao.
the foreign minister 3 times.
Oh.
I also met some Chinese Politburo members.
Correct.
Ipa-phoner
before.
natin, dali. Sige, ipa-phoner natin. Ipa-phoner
Si
natin.
Minister
Saka
Wang.
ako na.
Uy, nakakatakot yun. He's very stern. He looks very stern to me.
Oh, talagang...
I don't think you're supposed to call him that on air.
Hindi lang ako government eh. Pero nakaharap namin siya.
Teka,
Talagang,
nakatayo ka kahapon dahil...
nakaharap namin siya for the APEC Summit.
Oh.
Kami ni,
Hard negotiator
kami ni
talaga.
Secretary Ochoa. Pagkaupo pa lang, banat ka agad eh. No? Why don't you want to talk with us? Ganun kagad siya, no? We are setting meetings with you. Why don't you want to meet us? Kakaupo pa lang, ha?
Ay, totoo ba? Ayaw niyo makipag-meet? Is it true?
Hindi. Gusto naman namin makapag-meet. Pero parang ano ba yung magiging agenda sa meeting? Ano kung sasabihin
English ang
ng...
salita niya?
Oh, ha? English. Oh.
English?
Oo. Tapos ang kinukuha lang namin, ano yung pag-uusapan?
Teka, anong sagot niya? Paano yung sinagot?
Ha?
Paano yung sinagot?
Ha?
Paano yung sinagot?
Okay.
Yun na pala yung sagot mo. Okay. Okay.
At saka yung nung na-meet ko sila nung 2012, backdoor. Pumunta ako sa Hong Kong.
You
saka
were
sa
part of the
China.
backdoor team.
Hindi. Mag-isa lang ako na
Okay.
backdoor. Si presidente na nakakaalam ng backdoor ko. Ano? Ang open backdoor si Trillanes. Ako yung secret backdoor. Nakaharap ko sila sa Hong Kong
secret
at Beijing. Talagang kung sila. Yung mga parang ibubuli ka. Ganun yung kanila. What is our agenda? Tatanong ko ano agenda. Siyempre, malinaw naman sa kanila kung ano agenda. So
ano sagot mo? Okay.
Sabi ko, our agenda is our imminent invasion of China. Ganun sila, oh. Tinginan sila. Don't worry.
Ay nako, marites na yan.
Hindi, totoo yun.
Marites na. Okay,
Sabi ko sa kanila,
Sige.
don't worry. We are having problems. We don't know what to do with China if we win. Doon sila tumawa. Doon ko na-realize.
So you thought
Hindi, na-realize ko, wala
can make them laugh,
Hindi, wala
that's
silang sense of humor. Yun yung kanilang weakness.
because it's a serious...
Bubuli ka nila.
tayo naman puro sense of humor.
Yan nga,
Puro joke na
Hindi,
lang.
kung mahina kang bansa, talaga hanggang sense of humor ka na lang. Di ba?
Tawa na lang. Hindi naman si Ed tawa na
pag si Ami yung hinarap mo, makikipag-away yan eh. No? Di ba, Ami?
Wala si
Nawala tuloy yun.
Pag si Ami, pero totoo yun ha, yung biruan na yun. Paano, sabi ko,
That's our diplomatic approach.
dahil
Talagang
ang
soft.
estilo nila, bullying eh. No? So, ikutan mo. Ikutan mo, patawanin mo.
So, natawa sila. Ano nangyari?
Doon na kami nag-usap ng seryoso. Sabi ko sa kanila,
Tapos kinuha nila yung scarporosol.
hindi, kinuha na nila yun eh.
Okay.
Yun nga yung purpose ng meeting eh.
Okay.
Kinuha na nila eh. Tapos ang sabi ko sa kanila, bakit ganito kayo? Dati naman tayo naguhulihan. Bakit ngayon parang in-invade namin ng China? So sabi nila, you can no longer do that now. Sabi ko, why? we are now a superpower.
Yun pala yun.
Yun yung kanila noon. Dahil dati kasi...
They were a superpower. They are a superpower.
Yung mga poachers nila, hinuhuli natin. Yun ang nag-trigger ng Scarborough. Hinuli natin yung poachers nila. Ba't galit na galit kayo? Nilusob nyo kami. Ang sabi nila, hindi nyo na pwedeng gawin na.
Well, okay. We have to pivot to another story right now because our reporter is on standby.
Dapat si
There
Ami
she
ang
is.
kasama ko.
Palace Press Officer Claire Castro held a media briefing this afternoon, and we have mobile journalist Julie Baiza for the details. Julie, what do you have?
Yes, Ms. Red. Different issues nga yung natalakay namin sa press briefing kanina. Unahin natin yung nagkagulatan kagabi na pagpapalit ng leadership sa customs. Ang sabi ni Palace Press Officer Claire Castro kanina, 6 na official daw ng Bureau of Customs yung tinanggal. May mga collector, may deputy commissioners and directors. Ang tinanong namin siya kung makikita ba na hindi satisfied ang Pangulo sa naging performance ni Rubio. Hindi naman daw masasabi o masasagot yan. At kung ano man daw yung naging dahilan ng Pangulo, malamang daw tungkol lang naman sa ikagaganda ng serbisyo para sa taong bayan. Isa pa sa napag-usapan kanina yung resulta ng Octa Research Survey kung saan majority ng Pilipino, 57% yung naniniwala or suportado yung pagbabalik ng bansa sa ICC. Ang sabi ni Castro, dinidinig ng Pangulo yung ganitong sentimiento at tingnan daw kung ano yung magiging opinion o posisyon ng Pangulo in the coming days. Hindi rin nawala yung usapin naman sa prime water investigation kasi kung maaalala natin, inutos ng Pangulo na imbestigahan ng luwa yan dahil nung pagkatapos niya umikot sa ilang paaralan sa Bulacan ay napag-alaman na wala ngang maayos na supply ng tubig yung dalawang eskwelahan na inikot niya. Natanggap na daw yung report ng luwa na sa Office of the President na pero pag-aaralan pa ng Pangulo at kung ano man daw yung makita doon, for sure gagawan daw ng legal action. Di rin nawala yung usapin naman kay SOJ, kay Justice Secretary Boying Remulla. Hindi pa daw nababanggit or wala pang nababanggit yung Pangulo tungkol sa nasabi nga ni Secretary Remulla na mag-a-apply siya sa as ombudsman. Ang sabi lang daw ng Pangulo, sa ngayon wala pa naman daw shortlist kasi sa Friday pa naman actually yung deadline ng submission ng application. At kung may tinanong na rin kung may basbas ba ni PBBM kasi nagsalita na rin si Sec Boying na narelay na niya to sa Pangulo, ang sagot naman daw decision pa rin daw ni SOJ, ni Sec Boying yung pagsasubmit ng application for ombudsman.
Okay.
Julie, ano ba hinahanap ni pangatlo ng Customs Commissioner yan ni Bongbong Di ba? Ano ba hinahanap niya sa Customs Chief niya?
Tinanong nga po namin kanina kung may kinalaman ba to sa revamp pa rin, kasi kung satisfied ba ang Pangulo, kung yun ba yung dahilan. Pero hindi kasi explicitly sinagot ni Yusek Castro. Ang sabi nga lang niya, for sure daw, ano man yung dahilan ng Pangulo para sa ikagaganda ng taong bayan. Hindi rin daw masasabi kung involved ba sa anomalies o kung minakitaan ba ng anomalya. Hindi lang si Rubio, pero yung 5 kasama pa niya na wala pa rin po tayong pangalan hanggang sa ngayon. Hindi pa natin na-identify kung sino yung collectors at deputy commissioners and directors na kasama niyang natanggal.
Alam kasi ni Ami na hindi maliit na bagay ang customs Yan yung isa sa main revenue generation institutions natin.
Yes.
BIR and Customs.
Yes. At ikalawa ay very political yan. Yan yung pinakahinahabol nung mga behind the scenes na mga power blocks. Dahil mahalaga yan hindi lamang sa revenue generation. No?
It's also alongside BIR known as perennially one of the most corrupt agencies.
Yes. At saka
All
kung
surveys.
ano yung economic plans mo, usually nakatali yan sa customs. Sino ba yung itatax mo ng mataas? Sino yung itatax mo ng mababa? Para ma-impluensyahan yung emphasis mo in terms of manufacturing, agriculture, etc. Halimbawa, isang dahilan kung bakit mataas ang presyo ng bigas ay dahil sa customs. So, very crucial yan in terms of yung buong economic strategy, hindi lang yung revenue generation. Kaya interesting kung sino yung mga tinanggal. Dahil very powerful dyan yung mga deputy commissioners at saka yung mga yung mga heads ng mga ports. Diyan nangyayari yung maraming milagro.
So what is your question?
Yes.
Kung sino yung mga tinanggal.
5 names pa nga po yung hinahanap
Sino yung mga
natin.
tinanggal?
For
Pero
now,
hindi lang yung tinanggal na head Yung mga deputies ang crucial.
Good question. Oo nga, sino nga ba yung mga deputies?
Iyon pa
yung
po
mga
yung iniintay natin, pina-follow up natin kasi kanina hindi nagbigay or hindi pa naglalabas ng pangalan yung Palas kung sino yung deputy commissioners and directors na kasamang natanggal kasi si Rubio lang yung na-announce. Actually, napaka-sudden nga nung announcement kasi bigla lang update last night na nakapag-oath na si former administrator
Nepomuceno.
So parang yung reaction namin, so wala na pala si Rubio. So what was the reason? So medyo balik-balik pa.
Sino pa yung Museno? Dati na siyang Deputy Commissioner sa Customs.
Yes.
Yes.
Before.
So balik customs
Tapos
na naman po
mukhang
yung
yung isang
ipinalit.
Mukhang yung isang pinaka-importante na natanggal si Bakiran. Deputy Commissioner Bakiran. Very crucial yung role niya dyan sa Customs. So, kung i-deconstruct mo yung mga natanggal, makikita mo kung sino yung mga political backers ng mga yan. Makikita mo kung sino yung in, kung sino yung out.
Sabihin mo na.
Secret.
Julie, anong pinaka-latest kay Jay Ruiz? Araw-araw parang may ibang may ibang marites tungkol sa kanya.
Kahapon po actually bumaba siya dito sa amin. Tinanong namin siya. Yung una kasi natanong siya, may kumalat na may COVID daw ba? So, kinlarify nga niya na may isang nag-positive na staff. So, nag-test naman sila, yung mga close contact, and he tested negative naman. Pero kasi kahapon, Monday, naka-leave siya nung morning. So, again, sa gitna nga nung usapin na may lumabas na panibagong pangalan na papalit sa kanya, bakit naka-leave? So, tinanong din namin siya. Ang sabi nga, hindi nga lang daw po masyadong maganda yung pakiramdam, ganyan. So, nung natanong na namin siya kung kilala ba niya or naririnig din niya tong si Dave Gomez na lumutang na pangalan.
Yes.
Ang sabi nga niya, hindi naman daw po niya kilala. And tinanong nga namin siya, anong directive? Ang sabi niya, hanggat wala nga naman daw pong order, patuloy lang naman siya sa pagtatrabaho. So,
Pwede bang hindi
may
kilala
tiwala daw po ang
ni
Pangulo.
Dave Gomez?
Dave, no, Dave Gomez.
Oo nga, pwede bang hindi kilala ni Jay Ruiz si Dave Gomez?
Tinanong po namin siya, parang hindi naman daw po sila
Sama ang
nagkasabay.
pakiramdam.
Or
Hindi niya naalala.
Bakit? Why should they know each other?
Why not?
Matagal nang hindi journalist tong si
But
Dave.
si Jay's been a journalist for a long time rin.
Kaya nga. They're the same batch.
They're not the same age, pero nagkaabutan malamang yan.
Nagkaabutan sa si Balita
Dati
namin si
naming
Dave.
reporter.
Philstar yan.
Right.
Philstar yan.
Philstar. Tama.
Teka,
I was gonna
Julie,
say.
Si Ami nga, hindi ko kilala nun. Pero
Opo, baka
Pero ngayon takot ka
nagkasabay
na.
pero hindi masyadong
sige.
usap.
Sige. Let's give that na. Pero Julie, the other two stories that are potentially large, big, yung Okta research survey dun sa ICC, pagbabalik natin ng membership, at yung application ni Remulla sa pagka-ombudsman, well, parang hindi niya sinagot.
Actually,
Hindi
siguro
pa siya makakasagot nun, di ba?
Kasi sabi niya,
Yung-
parang, ang desisyon pa rin nakiboying.
ang sabi nga po niya doon yes, yun pa rin naman, decision pa rin naman daw ni SOJ yun kasi tinanong nga siya kung may
Kung may
basbas ba
basbas.
ng Pangulo.
Hindi naman desisyon ni Boying kung may basbas siya. Anyway, I'm being philosophical. But you know what I mean?
And wala pa nga rin
Wala
daw
sa
po
indikasyon.
kasing shortlist.
Kumbaga umiwas siya.
Yeah.
Actually, parang today medyo tayo ngayon, medyo mga motherhood statement.
Hindi mo na po rin.
Umiwas nga. Umiwas nga.
I agree with you.
Pero yung isa pa nag-file si Mike Aguinaldo, no? Dating
COA.
dating head ng COA, at dati ring undersecretary sa Office of the Executive Secretary. So, kwan din yun. Magaling din yun.
Panahon ni Pinoy, di ba?
Panahon ni Pinoy, kahit panahon ni Digong.
Nag-crossover yun.
Crossover.
Okay. Tapos yung sa ICC membership, yung pagbabalik daw natin, we'll see in the coming days? Is that...
Dinidinig daw po ng Pangulo yung sentimiento ng publiko. And tingnan daw po natin kung ano yung magiging posisyon posisyon ng Pangulo in the coming days.
Paano niya?
Julie, noong 2023 pa niya
Survey.
pinag-aaralan yan, hindi ba?
Survey
Ito
result ito
understudy. Ang tagal naman na mag-aaral.
Actually, tuwing matatanong nga po, laging titingnan, pinag-aaralan, pag-aaralan.
Then again, in 2023, he also said it's under consideration.
Very consistent.
Sinabi
Very
niya,
consistent.
understudy. It
Okay.
was under study in 2023.
Basta didinigin yung sentimiento ng mamamayan.
Didinigin, didiligin.
Didinigin.
Okay. Pasensya na, Julie, for sa mga katabi ko. They don't know what they're asking. They know not what they're asking, but thank you for your reporting, mobile journalist Julie
Forgive
Baiza.
them for they know not.
si, si Principal naging Yeso Cristo bigla.
Parang si Barabas yung katabi, no?
Uy, bagay. You're watching Storycon on One News. We just need to take a very quick break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
We've got developing news, the stories behind the headlines. Welcome back to Storycon, the Story Conference. I'm Ed Lingao.
And I'm Regina Lay, still with us. Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star and Ronald Llamas, a resident political pundit.
Whatever.
A resident political whatever.
Political heckler. Oh, teka, seryoso kausap natin yun. Let's talk to incoming House Prosecutor, Congresswoman Leila de Lima. Ma'am, magandang hapon and welcome back to Storycon.
Magandang hapon.
Magandang hapon sa inyo, Ed,
Congresswoman.
Amy, Regine, and Ronald.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Congresswoman.
Congresswoman, pinapakilala ko rito as political whatever.
Political heckler.
Bagong title.
Political
Hindi pa rin ako
whatever daw.
sanay, Amy. Naninibago pa
Hindi
rin
pa
ako.
sanay.
Yes.
Hindi,
First day ni Congressman
Oh,
as
di ba?
a
Congresswoman,
congresswoman.
magiging
Hindi,
prosecutor.
kakong
Magiging soon-to-be prosecutor. Kung
Karaywan
hindi
yan.
po ma-dismiss yung kaso bago mag-trial. Pwede ba yon? Pwede kasi yun ang sinabi ngayon ni Senator Win Gatchalian na baka nga daw pagdutuhan ng mga senators yung case to dismiss. Pwede ba yon?
Hindi ho pwede yan. Kasi ano pa ba yung pag-uusapan nila dyan? I mean, nag-file na ng verified answer, nag-file na ng reply, and therefore, nag-join na yung issues. Yun ang tinatawag na joinder of issues. So it's already ripe for trial. Kasi yung mga determination ng mga form, sufficiency in form and substance, ay nandun yun sa House of Representatives. So nakita nila, na ano na nila yan, na verify na nila yan, na niguro na sila, na sufficient yung complaint, sufficient yung articles of impeachment. Ngayon naman, kung ano pa yung mga i-raise nila, yung mga jurisdictional issues, I don't think sa level ng impeachment court, ay pwede nilang i-consider at this point because try and decide. Ang kanilang mandate is to try and decide. Now, they have a pending petition anyway with the Supreme Court. But in the absence of a temporary restraining order, walang makaka-delay dapat, wala dapat magiging impediment or hindrance sa pagtuloy-tuloy na
Pero Congresswoman, may motion daw kasi to dismiss. Meron daw kasi motion to dismiss, so pwede nilang pagbotohan yon.
Well, yung motion to dismiss, they can of course look at it and they can of course, try to issue a ruling on that. Pero hindi pwedeng dismissal, hindi pwedeng grant. Ang pwede dyan, ino-note lang nila. Duly noted. May ganyan mga resolution duly noted. Kasi nga, hindi pwede, the very idea of dismissal without first seeing and looking and evaluating the evidence is not contemplated in the Constitution.
Congresswoman, when I interviewed you for Long Take a couple of weeks ago, at that point in time, di pa po kayo na-invite to join, formally, you haven't joined formally the prosecution panel, so you haven't seen the actual evidence. I know it's just day one, pero... you haven't...
Up to now, I have not been invited yet.
Okay.
So to any formal meeting of the panel. Yes.
So you haven't seen the evidence either?
They already forwarded the records. I've perused over it. I've started to study that. And so I'm just waiting for an advice or for a notification from the panel na pwede na akong mag-participate in the preparations, in the meetings. But wala pa ho at this point.
Okay.
Yes.
Ma'am, the second order issued by the Senate Impeachment Court is for the 20th Congress to certify that it is still interested in pursuing yung impeachment trial po. I'd like to toss you a hypothetical lamang. What if, for some reason, for any reason, by the 28th or the 29th of July, Congress votes not to pursue the trial, what happens then? What happens to the articles of impeachment? What happens to what was forwarded by the 19th Congress? And so on and on. Because this is all, I suppose, uncharted territory. But, what happens then to all of that?
Well, of course, there's always a remedy. Your question is about what if trial does not proceed?
What if,
the impeachment court dismisses the case? Is that the
ma'am.
question?
No, ma'am. What if the impeachment court is asking the 20th Congress, the incoming Congress,
Yes.
to certify it is
Yes.
still interested in pursuing the impeachment trial? That's their second order. The first order was complied with already, which was a certification that it was constitutionally, the impeachment
Sound.
was constitutionally sound. So the second was for the 20th Congress to
Yeah.
express interest in pursuing the trial. But what if, for any reason, the 20th Congress majority, they decide, they vote na, no, we're not interested anymore because, for example, baka nagbago yung ihip ng hangin sa politika, baka nagbago yung mga alyansa. That's one month from now.
Yeah, okay. That scenario to me is most unlikely. Although in this, in the kind of climate that we have, it's not really completely impossible. But I don't see that really happening because remember that the articles of impeachment, when transmitted, actually carried more than 1/3 votes,
Apo.
a lot more than 1/3, 215, and even more than 215 votes. So I doubt if there's going to be any change of position, a change of vote by the majority of the House of Representatives. So it's not about really yung ibabalik talaga in totality yung articles of impeachment, but just a manifestation, is an information, a manifestation, an information to be brought to the attention of the Senate as an impeachment court, that yes, we are proceeding with the impeachment. Although that's not supposed to be, pareho kasi yung dalawang points na yun, the reasons for the remand are actually very questionable. Even yung pag-remand just to ask for a certification that it complied with all the constitutional requirements, that's not proper. There's no such thing, because the very transmittal of the articles of impeachment to the Senate then in February 5 is already the certification that it is sufficient, that it complied with the Constitution. Now, the second one is more questionable. Not only is it premature, but also because the premise there is that the next Congress then the impeachment complaint, the impeachment case would not carry over or cannot carry over to the next Congress, which is the 20th Congress. So I don't know how the House again will act on that. It cannot be seen, it cannot be perceived as really in compliance with the order of the impeachment court, but just for record purposes, that yes, the impeachment case ought to continue.
Paano, as far as the House is concerned, tapos na yung role nila sa impeachment, di ba, Kong? Tapos na yun eh. Yung,
Exactly.
Kaya nga itong issue
Tapos
ng...
na talaga. So bakit binabalik pa sa kanila?
Yes,
Bakit pa binabalik sa kanila? Tapos na.
Yung issue ng
So,
remand...
ang Senate ang talagang mali dyan.
Yung issue ng remand, binabackpedal na nila last week. Sabi nila, hindi naman talaga remand, kundi referred.
Or return.
Referred back.
Paano
to the
kasi yung
Senate.
remand kasi, legally, halimbawa sa ating justice system, binabalik mo dun sa lower court yung buong kaso. Diba? Yun ang ibig sabihin ng remand.
Exactly.
Binabalik mo yung
Yes.
buong kaso. Dito, parang humihingi sila ng clarification. Kaya hindi talaga siya remand. It's more clarificatory. Kung di ba? So
It does not nullify. It does not nullify all the things that the House of Representatives has done in compliance with their duty under the Constitution. Hindi yun nilnullify, hindi yun reverse, hindi yun iniiba. So tama, the use of the word remand Kaya nga hindi dapat talaga ituring na remand yun. But when it comes to court cases, remand has a technical meaning that should not have been or cannot be applied dyan sa impeachment. Kasi nga, hindi naman ina-nullify yung mga ginawa ng House, yung sa proseso ng kanilang pag-adopt nung impeachment complaint, the fourth verified impeachment complaint, all the way to the transmittal, the due transmittal of the articles of impeachment. So walang nababago doon. And that's why the House needs to be careful also on how they will approach it, on how they will respond to those so-called orders from the impeachment court without being seen as accepting the propriety and the validity of that move on the part of the Senate, and at the same time cannot be construed as being disobedient, that they can walang contempt of the Senate as an impeachment court.
Yes, ma'am. But the fact, ma'am, is
Congresswoman, may
that
sarili kasing diksyonaryo yung Senate doon sa 19th Congress. Pero paano nga kung magbotohan sila on the motion to dismiss at dismiss? Ano ang magiging recourse ngayon ng prosecution team?
Supreme Court.
Of course,
Ano
I
ang
cannot
pwedeng
speak yet.
gawin?
Of course, I cannot speak yet officially on behalf of the prosecution, but
Yes.
The prosecution needs to raise that because it's a very valid constitutional question. And sino ang saan pwedeng erase yan? Wala nang iba. The Supreme Court. Although ordinarily, ang position ko sana, Ami, is that sparing lang dapat ang pangingialam ng Supreme Court. As much as possible, the Supreme Court should not be interfering or intervening sa mga issues surrounding the impeachment unless glaring ang error, glaring ang violations violation ng Constitution. And it will be a clear case of violation of the Constitution kung i-dismiss nila at this point. This is premature because no trial because trial is yet to be made. Yeah, so pwede talagang idalhin yan. That's one of the instances when pwede talaga na mag-exercise ng judicial powers ang Supreme Court over impeachment issues or impeachment matters.
I was gonna say na if there's anyone who knows about cases being remanded, it would be you because the Court of Appeals, diba, remanded your case back to the Muntinlupa RTC. Na ngayon, you've been acquitted once again over these illegal drug charges. Congratulations, by the way. But also, what do you lawyers think? Ito na ba yun? Is this the end? Are you home free? How do you lawyers feel?
May ihahabol pa ba yung kabila?
Mag-remand pa uli.
Pwede pa ba yun?
Wala na akong nakikitang dahilan o anuman na talagang dahilan o punto na pwedeng erased by anyone, kasama na dyan ng Office of the Solicitor General, and even on the part of the Court of Appeals itself. Kasi in the very first place, questionable talaga yung pag-remand na yan. It was sort of unprecedented. Nagtanong-tanong ako sa mga practitioners, and they said na ngayon lang sila nakakita ng isang kaso na pinabalik yung kaso dahil hindi na kontento, hindi na satisfy dun sa itsura nung decision. But there was never a categorical ruling there that the acquittal, the very judgment of acquittal was erroneous or invalid na ino-overturn. Na kasi kung gano'n ang nangyari, so dapat pinabalik na ako ngayon sa kulungan. Kung in-affirm, kung reverse nila yung acquittal. But what they did is just to tell the respondent judge, can you please, in simple terms, can you please rewrite the judgment of acquittal? Kasi kulang-kulang. So that's exactly what the trial court judge did. So tinulat niya ulit. So may mga dinagdag siya. But still, he was firm in his position that his decision, including the original decision, was clear enough in laying down the factual and legal basis for my acquittal. But just so to comply, because it's a lower court, so it's inferior than the Court of Appeals and is being ordered to do that by a higher court. So we had to do that. And So ganun ang resulta. In other words, 2 beses ako inacquit. So we have a case of double acquittal, a case of double jeopardy. I hope that it does not translate to a triple jeopardy. Siguro naman kontento na sila sa 2 lang na acquittal. Kasi kung magiging 3, talagang world record yan.
Don't be too sure.
Pahabol ko lang kasi sabi niyo dati you are considering filing cases doon sa mga behind wrongful prosecution or malicious prosecution. Kumusta po yan? Itutuloy niyo ba yan?
Oh yes, definitely. Nung nung campaign period, nung election period, talagang pinahold ko na muna. I didn't feel comfortable na magiging issue yan, gagamitin ko issue sa pag-campaign ko. I just wanted to really concentrate on the merits of our party list as a party list, as representing various sectors. But ayaw ko na mga ihalo ko pa yung issue na yan. So pinahold ko. So now, lalo na yan, settled na settled na dapat yan. I don't expect any other moves or any other action that may again jeopardize my status of complete freedom and acquittal. Pinago ko na uli. So in a few weeks, we will be filing the first of those cases.
Congresswoman, nagmi-meeting na ba at
Yes.
saka nag-i-strategize, nagpaplano na ba yung prosecution team ng House?
Ang alam ko, yes, they've been meeting regularly.
Hindi pa sila na
Right up to now, kami ni Congressman Chel Jokno, hindi pa kami na-imbita formally. So we haven't attended yet any of those meetings. But as I said, pinadala na sa amin yung records. We have the records already of the impeachment and the related materials, related reading materials about impeachment. So anytime we expect that they will invite us.
Sorry, Congresswoman, coming back to your answer about wrongful prosecution suits, can you give us a preview? Sino po yung kakasuhan natin and what court are you looking at?
My lawyers have advised me not to announce that yet. the particulars about those cases, possible cases.
Okay.
But certainly, kasama dyan yung dating Secretary of Justice and several others. Those who have actually coerced, threatened, and influenced, pressured certain witnesses. Those who were used as handlers of some of these witnesses who eventually actually recanted or signified their intention to recant.
Okay.
So we will be announcing in due time the particulars of the cases.
Okay, fair enough. We will call you back in. Hopefully, you'll be available the day that you're able to file these cases so we can get more details. But for now, we'll leave that there. Thank you so much for your time today. Incoming House Prosecutor, Representative Leila de Lima.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Congresswoman.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, see?
Bakit?
Tahimik ka.
May kaso na naman.
Subdued.
Subdued.
Oh, happy July,
Pero yun nga, she's been saying all along, even 2 weeks ago when I interviewed her for Long Take, na hindi pa sila, they've not been formally invited to the prosecution panel to start meeting with the others. I'm not sure what the holdup is. But then again, it's just day 1 for the 20th Congress, right? Oh, sorry, day 2 technically, kasi yesterday, they
dahil
start.
ngayon pa lang talaga sila
magkakon-
maging kongresista.
Ano lang yun, na overshadow lang nung pagpa-file ng 700 cases so far. Bills. 700 bills so far filed.
Bumilib ka,
Sa
Ami?
House.
Bilib ka,
Sa
Ami?
House. Yan na muna ang inuuna nila.
Bilib ka, Ami, doon sa dami?
Ilan kaya yung renaming
Hindi, 300
renaming
plus
the
yan eh.
school?
Di bali dalawa bawat
Renaming
Bali
streets,
dalawa
renaming
bawat
schools.
member.
Uy, by the way, there's also another bill
Most of the bills
filed.
most of the bills filed are of local
Hyper-local.
Streets, roads.
Sa constituency nila.
By the way, somebody refiled the 200 peso wage hike bill.
Halo, TUCP.
Oo. They are very unhappy about the 50 peso daily wage hike bill that was approved.
Si Deputy Deputy Speaker Ray Mendoza.
Oo. And now, he has refiled the bill nga for
Tsaka
200
yung bagong
pesos.
congressman.
Pero mukhang hindi papasa
Yung
kasi...
Kamanggagawa Party List.
Oo,
yung
Kamanggagawa,
ML.
correct.
Yeah, nag-file
Pero
din
mukhang
sila.
hindi papasa because there's a lot of opposition to 200 pesos
Yeah.
nga.
Because the right time to
Sinabi
pass
naman ng
that
Malacanang pag-aaralan daw nila.
Oo, which is
Of
their
course,
way
the
of keeping...
president can study something for the next 3 years. Ano?
Kasi di ba,
Parang yung,
Exactly.
parang yung
Exactly.
ICC, yung pagsama uli. Pag-aaralan daw.
Parang yung
Didinggin daw.
ICC.
Didinggin.
Which
yung
is their way
mamamayan.
of kicking the can down the road pagde-delay.
the right time kasi to pass a wage hike bill is just before elections para mabango ka sa mga botante. Not after elections kung saan nakuha mo na yung boto nila.
Yung bill, nakasalang na just before the midterms. It's just that, well,
You have to
it's
refer
the
to
economic
person
team, it's the
Hindi
politicians
nagkasundo yung House and Senate, di ba?
Gusto kasi ng House, 200. Gusto ng Senate, 100.
100.
Tapos last day na.
Gusto ni Direk, mag-goodbye na tayo.
Last day na ng session. Kaya hindi na tuloy.
Okay.
Hindi, si Reg eh.
Sorry.
Overtime na kayo.
Overtime
Si
na.
Reg yun,
Okay na
hindi
kayo.
hindi ako.
Thank you
Principal
for...
ako eh.
Okay lang, di mo na ako pinapagilitan. Thank you for joining Storycon today. I'm Pamintuan, Editor-in-Chief of Philippine Star, Ronald Llamas, our resident political pundit. Join us again tomorrow, 4 p.m. for Storycon. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Ed Lingao. We are One News, all sides, all the time.